Can anyone answer with Polo? Hello guys! Sorry for being late. Finally I'm here. Right. Okay, so before I start, heads up. Donations will be read at the end of the stream, and I will not be reading a lot of chat while I'm reading all the materials that I have for today, because I have a bunch of them. I was trying my best to keep it compact, but there's just a lot of interesting and important things to add for me to read to you guys. And so yeah, if you have any questions or any important additional information that are related to the topic, once again related to the topic, please keep that until the end of the stream, because right now I want to concentrate in delivering everything that I know about Marco Polo to you guys. I'm sorry for my throat. And yeah, so today's stream will be delivered in English. So if there's any Indonesian viewers who would like to do live translation from English to Indonesia, feel free to do so. I will be really grateful for your help. And without further ado, let's begin. Once again, Marco! Can I have Polo? Where should I put my glass of water? There you go. Yay! Thank you! Alright. Let's go. Marco Polo. Once being imprisoned, called a liar for many years, even being told to confess that all his stories were a lie by a priest when he was on his deathbed. Even his family members were trying to do the same, but the last words that came from his mouth were,
"I have not told half of what I saw, for I knew I would not be believed."
Could it be all the stories that Marco Polo had told in his best-selling book were only frictions of what he had seen during his travels? Or all of them were just a lie? And welcome back to ALSTROEPEDIA, First Class. Thank you. Well, so here's the guy for today. In case you didn't know, the famous said book is Il Libro di Marco Polo, detto Il Milione. In English, the Book of Marco Polo, nicknamed the Million, which is called as The Travels of Marco Polo in English, written down by Rustichello da Pisa, his prison cell buddy in Genoa. From there began the long-time debate about the authenticity of his fabulous stories. Well, it will take hundreds of years before the world will know that every single story he told was true. Aside from the fact that he also told about the mythical creatures of like unicorns or something, but we will get into the unicorns that he told about it in his book later, okay? I will definitely explain to you guys what kind of animal, what kind of creature that he told everyone that it was a unicorn. It's not unicorn. It's definitely something else. Anyway, okay. Well, but yeah, just like I said, from there began the long-time debate about the authenticity of his fabulous story. But, well, with all of the limitations that people had during that time, well, it was just around 11th century, right? It was in the 11th century. Well, with all the limitations, we couldn't blame those people from being skeptical and not believing his stories, because they just couldn't believe what they couldn't see with their own eyes, right? Not everyone had the privilege to travel as far as he went, you know? So, yeah, they just couldn't accept the fact that there's actually an empire far, far east which was much more advanced than theirs. And it was hard to believe that this one man has seen and done so much so in his lifetime. Now, let's rewind the time to see how everything began. So, yup, back to the past. Alright, here's our guy for today, Marco Polo. So, the year was 1269. 15-year-old Marco Polo, waiting in excitement for his father and uncle to go back from their journey so they can bring him along on the next adventure. Of course. Well, he had already learned how to read, write, and speak 5 languages. 5 languages. Well, his father and uncle, Niccolo and Maffeo Polo, known as Polo brothers, were gone a lot during Marco's young life, often for several years at times during their travels. And by the time both of them finally returned home to Venice, Marco Polo was actually already 15 years old and his mother already passed away. So when Niccolo and Maffeo left home, practically Marco Polo's mother was pregnant. So the mother gave birth to Marco when both of them were away for their travel. So they literally never seen or talked with Marco Polo for the first 15 years of Marco's life. Right. So, yeah. So before we go further, you can see here who Marco Polo is. Yes. He's the author of the famous book. He called a liar for the rest of his life after he got back from his travels because of his book. Just like I said, he could speak 5 different languages. And later to be the man who worked for Kublai Khan and is known as one of the greatest explorers known to the world, though Marco Polo himself didn't prefer to be called as an explorer. I will tell you why later. Yeah, so, okay. During that time, because his mother has passed away on his young age, he was living with his relatives. To be exact, with his aunt and another uncle. And before we go further, let me explain something about traveling to such far away places during that time. So, traveling was all about going on a long journey that involved sailing, riding on horseback, walking of course. So by all means, people could only go so far before they ran out of their money and supplies. Definitely not an easy feat. So the only people who would travel during that time were the merchants. They already had what they needed to start the journey from their family. The family maps, travel journals, personal experiences, they already had all of those behind them. So basically a lifetime preparation. Once you were born into a merchant family, you were expected to follow your family tradition of becoming a merchant to continue the family trade. But not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind living that kind of life if that means I could travel and see the world, of course. Well, I can travel with my family's money. I wouldn't trade my life for that. Yeah, so our boy today, Marco Polo, he was luckily born into one of these merchant families. Well, he spent most of his early life waiting for his father and uncle. Hello there! Am I back? I'm not sure. Let me check my stream. Refresh. The curse, the infamous obvious curse is here. Oh, I'm back. Apparently I'm back. Hi, everyone. So, in case you guys are new here, or if this is your first ALSTROEPEDIA stream that you watch on my channel, let me explain something real quick. So there's actually a very infamous curse on my stream. It only happens during ALSTROEPEDIA streams. So I've already checked everything. I even changed every single layout that I used on my previous ALSTROEPEDIA streams. So if you guys realize, if you checked out my old ALSTROEPEDIA streams, the layout were totally different. It was totally different from what I have now. So practically I already refreshed every single layout, I already checked everything, and trying to find out what make this curse happens. I even make a new scene collection, but the curse is still there. Maybe I don't know. Maybe the stream key is also the same, guys, with the other streams that I have on YouTube. So I came to this conclusion: maybe OBS just hate me doing educational stream. But I will not give up. Let's get on with the topic. Okay, let's go. So, yeah, Marco Polo luckily was born into one of these merchant families. And yeah, practically he spent most of his life, early life I mean, waiting for his father and uncle, since he only heard about the wonderful stories of their journal from his relatives. But actually he never met with them. In fact, he's going to meet them for the very first time. 15 years old. Never once meet with your father. Okay, so oops, no spoilers. Sorry about that. Okay, so before we go forward, I was about to tell you that Marco Polo was born in 1254 into a wealthy Venetian merchant in Italy. He was raised by extended relatives since his mother passed away at his young age, and both his father and uncle had left before his mother's passing for a long-term trading expedition. Merchant families, yeah? Yeah, of course. Okay, so back to the present. 15-year-old Marco was so excited when both of them came back. Father! Uncle! Finally, I meet you guys for the very first time! Oh, hi, son! Hi, nephew! We came back. Oh, by the way, let me tell you about our journey. Why we haven't came back for such long years, for such long time. I'm sorry, boy, but yeah, here's our story, okay? Okay, so they told Marco that both of them actually had spent 6 years living in Constantinople. Now you know Constantinople as Istanbul, Turkey. Back then, it had been under Latin control since 1204. So they were telling Marco about the adventure that they had to prepare Marco for the journey that he's about to have really soon. Okay, so the dad and the uncle, they lived there for 6 years, and of course they wanted to go home, especially since things are getting pretty boiling over there. And their way back home to Italy may have been blocked by the Byzantine reconquests of Constantinople in 1261, along with the upheavals in the Mongol Empire. So they thought, so maybe it goes like this between Niccolo and Maffeo, right? Okay.
Hey bro, we cannot go home. You know, it's gonna be dangerous. So let's just turn east and trade some stuff there. Yeah, let's go make some money for the living, bro. We're merchants after all.
Therefore, they turned east in order to trade stuffs like silk, gems, furs, and spices. Merchant, I know, right? Yeah. And they spent about 3 years in Bukhara for that. If you guys are wondering, Bukhara is Uzbekistan now. And when they lived there, they were encouraged by a traveling messenger from Mongolian embassy to join him in his journey to visit Kublai Khan. Who is Kublai Khan, you ask? You know, he was the grandson of the great Genghis Khan, the ruler of a big portion of Asia. That Kublai Khan, you know? You know? And by the way, you know what? That was actually a really good decision that they made, you know, to leave Constantinople, stayed in Bukhara for 3 years, because in that very same year when they left in 1261, the ruler of Empire of Nicaea to Constantinople, and he burned the Phoenician quarter there and successfully re-established Byzantine. If I'm right, if I did wrote about that. Oh, I didn't wrote about that. Maybe because it's too graphic. Yeah, so I'm just gonna read these for you because it's pretty graphic. So after the ruler of Empire of Nicaea to Constantinople, the captured Phoenician citizens were blinded, and a load of those who managed to escape just in time, they perished on the refugee ships in Aegean seas, when those ships were supposed to sail to other Phoenician colonies. But thank God, Dad and Uncle escaped that fate, and they actually just doing their tradings in Bukhara. Anyway, let's continue the story. So, they followed the messenger and found themselves in the heart of Mongolian Empire. Well, the good thing about this is that Kublai Khan is a very open-minded ruler. He even asked them about European affairs. He quizzed them, literally quizzed them like, I'm really interested in European countries. Can you tell me more about Europe? So Kublai Khan was really interested in them and really fond of the duo. Well, in fact, both of them were the first Europeans that he ever met in his life. Kublai Khan was really impressed that both of them can write and read in so many languages, and he believed that, oh, you both could be really useful to me, of course. They were treated with luxuries beyond their imagination by him. In fact, he even asked the duo to return to Italy on a mission to meet with the Pope. Yes, of course, Kublai Khan heard about the Pope from both of them. Kublai Khan actually requested 100 priests and educated people for them to bring along so they can teach Christianity and Western custom to his people. Well, Marco actually told about this fact in his book, Il Milione. That's why we know about this today, okay? So, yeah, just like I said, Kublai Khan is so open-minded and very accepting of all cultures and religions. He's been known as the perfect ruler who fought greatly in battle, well-educated, and can make level-headed diplomatic decisions. As for the countries that he conquered, well, he definitely allowed them to keep the existing government structures and religions to continue functioning on their own, as long as they pledge their allegiance to the Mongolian Empire. So he was like pretty chill. It was cool, like, oh, you want to keep your government structures? You want to keep your religions? I'm cool with that, as long as you're loyal to me. That's how it went with Kublai Khan. So that was their story for Marco, and now the Polo brothers, Niccolo and Maffeo, they needed to talk with the Pope, so the Pope could help them with appointing 100 priests to bring back to Mongolia. So yeah, let's go on to the journey, but unfortunately for them, The Vatican was actually busy discussing who's going to be the next pope when they got back to Venetia. Because there has been a long lack of a pope. Oh no. The letter to the pope that was written by Kublai Khan is going to be a waste. Oh boy. Oh, by the way, they're willing to wait, by the way. They're willing to wait. And during these 2 years of waiting, they prepared Marco for the journey because,
my boy, you're coming with us this time!
now Marco is 17 years old. They packed what they need for the journey into the caravan, and off they go to the great journey of Marco Polo's life. Well, the journey itself will take them 3 years to finally arrive in China, to the Mongolian Empire. Well, yeah, so within these 2 years of waiting, they actually already sailed to Acre. Present day it's called Israel. And this time, they had Marco came along at their side. now they have their precious boy and nephew. So they waited there for the Pope and secured some holy oil from the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem. Why they secured some holy oil? Well, Kublai Khan asked for that. Finally, a new Pope got elected. It was Pope Gregory X, and this new Pope entrusted them with the letters for the Great Khan. He entrusted 2 Dominican fathers to the Polo brothers, Guglielmo of Tripoli and Nicola of Piacenza. So,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my man. I just couldn't hand over 100 priests to you, but agreed to take these 2 fathers with you. Yeah, I hope 2 is enough. I hope 2 are enough.
Thank you, Pope. At least we got some priests to bring back along with us. Okay. So they are now traveling back to China, but they have found out after all those years away from sailing, the family ship has fallen into despair. Not despair. I'm sorry, not despair, but this repair. But of course, that's actually make them fell into despair. Yeah. They were about to travel, but yeah, ship had fallen into disrepair. Well, ship bad, supply good. Oh no.
Well, we have our legs.
So on foot they went. Walking. No ship, no cry. Time to go by foot then. Yeah. They took camels, horses, donkeys to help carry the supplies on their journey. They have dried meat to eat and water to drink. But since they are merchants, of course they will trade their goods for some fresh fruits and vegetables. Of course, you know, 4 sehat 5 sempurna, I know, right? I don't know how to phrase this in English, but there's an Indonesian word for this. 4 sehat 5 sempurna. You definitely need your veggies and fruits to keep yourself healthy. So they traded their goods for some fruits and vegetables in the marketplaces whenever they stop at small towns or cities. They carried goods that would make them profit in the next place they stopped to buy. Anyway, since they are doing this on foot, of course, the journey... Test, 1, 2, 3, test, check, 1, 2, 3, I'm back! Come on! I know the world has been skeptical about Marco Polo's journey, but please let me... Just let me share about his wonderful journey story. Come on, OBS, or am I back? Am I back? Okay, I'm back. Thank you. Alright. Where we had left earlier. Okay, yeah, they traded. Okay, so since they are doing this on foot, of course, the journey will be super exhausting and they are also exposed to the elements. It's not an easy journey, guys. 3 years, you know, going on by foot. Going on by foot! On top of that, bandits are everywhere between the cities. But bandits, no problem. They were protected by the special passport that the Polo brothers got from Kublai Khan. Yeah. In that letter was written that
if anyone were to mess with the Polos, they would have to face the wrath of the Great Khan's entire army.
So, don't mess with the Polos. You don't want us... You don't want our stormtroopers to just storm your home. Storm your house, right? That would be nice. By the way, the journey was proved to be hard for both of the friars because elements proved to be worse than the bandits. They just couldn't take it anymore, so both of the fathers, the friars, they were forced to go back to Italy. They gave up. Practically just gave up, like, I'm sorry, we just couldn't handle this anymore. I thought the journey would be easy with you being rich, owning a ship and all, but we're sorry. We are going to go back. So the Polos didn't have any priests to bring back for Kublai Khan. From 100 priests reduced to 2, and now they had none. By the way, here's a fun fact for you guys. The route that they took was a series of overland traders' routes that later, in the 19th century, would become known as the Silk Road. Silk Road! And thank you for the donation! I will read that later. Thank you! Oh, by the way, here's another interesting story that he told in his book during his time in Tibet. I believe, boys, you would like to hear this. So, when he arrived there, he saw the Tibetan culture about how older women gathered their single daughters and relatives. Then, they took them to men and travelers passing by just to meet up. You know, just to Netflix and chill. The reason behind this culture is actually because it's actually pretty interesting, you know. This culture is pretty interesting. Because I don't believe that a lot of countries out there have similar cultures like this. So the reason behind this culture is because the men of the towns wouldn't marry a woman unless they know she had a lot of past sexual partners. So, in order for Tibetan women to get married, they had to be sexually experienced. And each past partner needs to give the woman small objects. So as the proof, you know, as the proof that he already had this woman. And the more she collects, the more fit she is to be a bride. Marco Polo, as a young man. And of course, he looked totally different from the other young men at the local area. He became a really popular boy. He experienced this when they got to Tibet. From what I remember, when I read a part of his book, he even said something like, well, if you are young, you could easily got like 20 or 30 young girls or women just shoved in front of your face, like, come on, take my daughters, so they have the experience of, you know, so they will be fit to be a bride. Anyway, let's go on. The year is 1275, 3 years after they started the journey. And finally, they arrive at Xanadu, Kublai Khan's summer palace. It's not from Final Fantasy, guys. It's Kublai Khan's Summer Palace. Okay? Xanadu. I need to remind you once again. Not from Final Fantasy. Thank you. And of course, they were greeted as royal guests. Well, I've already mentioned before, right? That during the 2 years of waiting, both his father and uncle already told Marco the stories about China and the great Mongolian Empire. But all of those stories couldn't compare with what he saw with his own eyes. The magnificent Mongolian Empire blew his mind away. The Xanadu place is a massive, beautiful summer palace that has a bunch of exotic animals and lush gardens. At the time, China already had their own heating and cooling system that Europe didn't have. Sanitation system! Good! It was already ahead of Europe as well. Everyone was clean, dressed in luxurious clothing with gold threads. Everything was amazing. Sanitation, clean. Food, free-flowing. Smell, good. Outfits, OMG, they look like royalties. So yeah. The Great Khan, of course, celebrated their arrival with a feast. Marco remembered and wrote in his book how there were tens of thousands guests at the party, about 40,000 to be exact. He couldn't count anymore. And the free-flowing wine fountain, it was amazing. Marco was greatly impressed by this one hell of a ruler. You know? In Marco's eyes, he was just this one that you might call a perfect ruler. He was open-minded. He kept his level-headedness during diplomatic negotiations, just like I said before, not to mention having an incredible skill in battles. He also celebrated diversity. He believed having the Polos in the court as advisors would help him a lot in negotiations with foreign nations. Well, yeah, just like I said, I also wrote it over here again. See? As long as the countries pledge their allegiance to the Mongolian Empire, they can keep their religions and existing government structures.
As long as you pledge loyalty to me.
That's Kublai Khan for you. So yeah, Kublai Khan believed having the Polos in the court as advisors would help him a lot in negotiations with foreign nations. So most likely Marco was tasked to become a tax collector and special messenger from the Khan to China and Southeast Asia. Maybe he even visited Indonesia back then, when it wasn't Indonesia. You know? It wasn't even colonized by the Dutch, I believe so, because it's still in the 11th century. I think we already got the Portuguese came visit Indonesia, which back then hasn't been called as Indonesia back then. Because it's just we were still just whole big of archipelago. We haven't been united as Indonesia. It's still in the 11th century. Anyway, he was also protected and given a special golden passport called Paisa. I'm sorry I couldn't find any picture of this Paisa, but let me just explain how it looked like for you. I'm sorry. I need to drink some water first. Oh my god, my throat. Okay, So yeah, this pizza, let me explain how it looked like for you guys. It's in the form of a gold tablet that authorized him to make use of a vast network of imperial horses and lodgings. So, working under Khan, he was not only a mere merchant, but as an honored guest and court member of the Khan. Yeah. A very special golden passport. Well, actually, his father and uncle received the same golden passport from before they got back to Italy to pick up Marco and the two priests. You know, you remember the two priests who gave up in the middle of the journey? Yeah. So, practically, that golden passport was the one that protected them from the bandits. And also the letter, you know, that included the threat to anyone who tried to mess with the Polo brothers. Anyway, yeah. So, long story short, Marco Polo became one of Kublai Khan's trusted advisors. Do you remember that I mentioned earlier that he could speak 5 different languages? That went a long way. He proved himself to be useful in diplomacy and negotiations, beside being the messenger and tax collector. No. But all good things must come to an end. So well, after a lot of years, the Polo family thought that they were living great under Kublai Khan's rule. Too great even. They totally enjoyed themselves. They have a lot of privileges. They could even seen a lot of entertainments that they never seen back in Europe. But what if Kublai Khan stepped off from the throne and passed the ruling to his successor? He's getting old, you know? So, well, they decided to go home. They were foreigners, you know, not even official citizens of the empire. They're just celebrated as honored guests. They wouldn't have the same privileges after Kublai Khan passed away. So under the claim of being homesick, they requested to be allowed to return to Italy. The Khan didn't want to see them go at first, since they found the Polo family to be really useful. It was a sad parting, but eventually he let them go, but with one important request of safely escorting Princess Kokachin to meet her new husband in Persia. Well, just a little trivia. She was called the Blue Princess and known for her legendary beauty. Her nickname, Blue Princess, came from her name, Kokachin. So Koko means deep blue. It was suggested that he got that nickname because of her dark complexion, which is called as exotic and beautiful. You know. Oh my god, my throat. I'm sorry for all of that excitement, guys. I'm being super hyped right now, and it costs me my voice. Okay, excuse me. Sorry for the spoiler. Anyway, this time, they didn't need to walk for another 3 years going back. And they got a boat! They got a boat from Kublai Khan. So they took the boat to Persia. It's not just a boat, by the way. It's not only... Anyway, I hope that we are back. Test, 1, 2, 3. Spam Polo, if you guys can hear me. Marco! Can I have some Polo? I see some Polo. I will continue. Okay. Good. Yeah, okay, let's go. Yeah, so they took a boat to Persia. But actually, it's not just one boat. They actually been given a fleet because they're going to escort a very important princess, right? The famous princess with the legendary beauty. So they got a fleet with several other boats. But sadly, more than 100 people died on that journey. But thankfully, the Polos and the princess were among the survivors. I believe there was only like 18 people who survived, and thank God the trio and the princess were among the survivors. Psst, you know what? He actually made a brief stop in Sumatra back then. So if you ever heard about an old kingdom in Indonesia, having Marco Polo as the guest, you know where it came from. He stopped by in Sumatra. Yeah, but it wasn't Indonesia back then. So, okay, finally they arrived in Persia, but when they arrived, Argon was dead. So the new supposedly to be so the man who was supposedly to be the new husband for Princess Kokachin, his name was Argon, by the way. He was already dead. So the princess was made to marry the son of Argon instead. So yeah, after the wedding, he continued the journey back to Venice. So bye-bye, princess! Thank you, Polos, for escorting me. Thank God we survived. Yeah. Bye. Have a nice trip back home. So yeah, the Polos continued the journey back to Venice and arrived home in 1295. Kublai Khan passed away a year before that, by the way, before they arrived in Italy. So the journey itself took more than a year. So I believe that the journey itself took about almost 2 years. So Kublai Khan passed away during their journey. And his death sent the Mongol Empire into a revocable decline. Another timely decision by the Polos. What if they stayed? So yeah. Back home in Venice and to the jail we go! Well, long story short, Marco Polo, after 24 years staying in the Mongol Empire, is about 40 plus years old now. 41, 42 years old maybe? Yeah. So, he got captured and imprisoned because there was a war between Genoa and Venice. So, he got arrested, and the majority of his family's wealth that they earned from their hard work, well, hard work, you know, well, still hard work, you know, like working as the special messenger for Kublai Khan. Majority of his wealth that they earned got seized illegally by the government. You know, government. Finally, we have arrived at the part where Marco Polo got his journey told and written. Because in this prison, he met his cell buddy. Hello, cell buddy! Hello, his name is Rustichello of Pizza. See, over there? The one who was gonna write his stories as a book. Do I need to remind you that the book is called Il Libro di Marco Polo detto il Milione? The Book of Marco Polo, nicknamed the Million. Yeah, the book is called Il Million from his nickname, Milione. So Marco Polo got his nickname, Milione. Okay, yeah. So Rustichello of Pisa, he was an Arthurian adventure writer. Adventure writer, huh? Okay. What a destined meeting. What are the odds? You know, what are the odds of him being imprisoned with someone who was an adventure writer? Who would be able, who at the end would write his adventures into an adventure book. Wow! Oh my god, the stars really lined up for Marco Polo. First, born into a wealthy Phoenician family. Second, worked as a special advisor, messenger, tax collector for Kublai Khan. And what about he struck with a bad luck? Not in a jail, but in the jail he met a cell buddy who was who was accidentally being an Arthurian adventure writer, who will become the writer of his adventure book. Wow! Oh my, he did strike gold. What a good karma. What was his past life? I wonder. Such a good karma, you know? Anyway, yeah. But actually, this is a little secret. He was able to hide some of his gold and gemstones so he could survive, you know? Yeah, so he could survive. Because majority of his wealth got seized illegally, right? He will go bankrupt, became a hobo. But thankfully, he was able to hide some of his gold and gemstones, so he could survive when he got out of jail. And he also got a good sum of money because the book Rustichello wrote, based on his travel stories, was a bestseller. Overnight even. Had he not jailed, he will be just another merchant coming from their journey. And maybe the story, he could only tell the story about his great journey working under Kublai Khan from only with his mouth or just his journal. He didn't know how to publish the book, but thank God, here comes the money. The writer, adventure writer even. Wow. Okay. By the way, guys, this is a very interesting fact. From all of what we've talked about before, we didn't learn a bit about his personal life or his personality, right? Other than some few facts about his childhood, that he was living with his relatives. But we don't know what kind of person he is. What kind of person his uncle and his father. We only know the personality of Kublai Khan, but not even one of his. He never described himself. So if you actually read the book, you might realize that he's more into an observer, a journalist. He's just writing down a record of what he saw and experienced, which in the future, most scholars in the world are convinced by his stories. They were written in so much detail, which overwhelmingly checks out against available archaeological, historical, and geographical records. He never passed personal judgment. The modern scholars compare the details of his book to the ancient Chinese documents. Nearly every detail is matched and proved that he was telling the truth all along. Well, despite a few facts that he was telling about unicorns, you know, but that's actually a totally different animal. He never seen that animal, but he heard about unicorns back in his childhood, so that's why, oh, maybe this is what unicorns look like. But in fact, unicorns is rhinoceros. Rhinos. Can you believe it? Rhinos. Because, you know, unicorns is an animal, is a horse with a horn on top, with one horn on top of their heads, right? What kind of animal that got horn on that head? They don't have rhinos in Europe. So they think, oh, rhinos, it's just a bulky horse with a horn. This must be the unicorn that everyone was talking about. Oh my god. Yeah. It just confused the animals that he encountered. He heard, well, yeah, especially in Europe, you could mistake them as unicorns because of what you heard of them from the other travelers. Anyway, okay. So, anyway, Marco was released in 1299 because of the Genoese-Venetian peace treaty. He went home, married Donata Badur, and had 3 daughters. But probably he never left Venetian area again, but continued doing trading, of course. Merchants! Merchants! Where will I get my money? I just learned how to trade all my life. I continued trading. He passed away in January 1324, and a great number of later generation explorers got inspired by him. Another fun fact for you guys, it is said that Christopher Columbus purposely sailed to the New World with a copy of Marco Polo's book in tow. Here's a little secret, which is not so secret anymore. Well, Christopher Columbus thought he would reach Asia not knowing that the Mongols' empire had already collapsed. He even marked the book, Marco Polo's book, with notes in preparation for meeting up with Kublai Khan's descendant. Time to prepare. I'm sorry, Christopher Columbus. Mongols' empire was no more. So, which one are you guys? Are you a believer or a skeptic? So many people were amazed by his accomplishments, but not few accused him of being a liar, including the priest who prayed for him in his deathbed and also his family. You know, his daughters, his grandchildren's. Especially since many of his stories challenged the Christian beliefs of the world. The stories made them feel inferior to the Far East. You know? Well, until this day, scholars are still divided. Some believe, some are skeptical. Because Marco Polo's book is one of the first major writings in Europe to describe the advanced Chinese society and technology. Europeans just couldn't believe that there's actually an advanced empire in the Far East. Especially since he didn't write about the use of chopsticks and the small shoes that the girls from the wealthy families had to wear to make their feet look pretty. Believed to look pretty. So, all in all, maybe the most important thing about his stories is not about whether it's true or not, or did he exist or not. Because some still doubt Marco Polo's existence. Some still believe that Marco Polo didn't even exist. The book that he had written with his cell body is just a fiction. Some still believe that the book is just a fiction because there wasn't a single portrait of this man. It is weird. Knowing that he came from a wealthy family, why there wasn't a single portrait? So all the pictures that you've ever seen of him... Am I back? Can I have some polo, please? Marco! Polo, thank you! Alright, okay, let's continue. Yeah, some still believe Marco Polo didn't even exist because there wasn't a single portrait of this man. So all the pictures that you've ever seen of him, including the ones that I've shown you before, are just artists' depiction of him. Is it true? Is it not? Or is it just an alliance of different explorers trying to tell the world about the Chinese, about the great empire? But then, Marco Polo was also written in one of the story, in one of the scrolls that the old kingdoms in Indonesia had back then. So did he exist? Well, the most important thing is that this book has inspired people to travel and learn about other cultures. Even now, there are a lot of several new editions of Marco Polo's book rewritten by the priests because they just couldn't believe the original book. So the priests rewritten everything with additional information. But you know what? To be honest with you, I myself believe that he did exist. Whether his name is Marco Polo or not, I believe that this guy existed. Because, you know, modern scholars already checks out some truth. That, well, it matched. Just forget about the unicorn. But everything else matched. Yeah. Well, he's still considered one of the greatest explorers in the world. But if you remember that I've mentioned earlier that he never saw himself as an explorer. He never said that I'm the greatest explorer of the world. No, he never said that. He preferred to call himself a wayfarer. Just an observer. Just a tourist. You know what? His story proved that dreams will be achieved. Oh, have I told you about his dreams, by the way? Apparently, the reasons why he wanted to travel to the east, the actual reasons were because 1. He wanted to travel with his father and uncle. Well, he was waiting for 15 years. He never seen his father and uncle. And for the first time, after his 15 years of living, he met his uncle and father for the very first time. And they were heroes to him. Like, he heard a lot about their travel stories. He wanted to experience it firsthand, especially since, guys, you are my father and uncle. Bring me with you. I'm your successor, remember? I also wanted to experience all the adventures that you've told me, that everybody's been telling me. And second, he was tired of his life in Venice. He was bored. He knew his father and uncle were out there having their time of the great adventure that they have in their life. Why am I stuck here? So he knew if he came with them, he might be able to bring great riches from Asia, and he'll be known by men, if not famous. He wanted to obtain riches from China and Asia. Yeah. So, that's it for today. Can I have follow? Marco! Yum. Oh, thank you! Oh my god, I spent an hour of telling the story. Okay guys, so discussion time. Because this stream already exceeded 1 hour, I will just give 5 minutes for the discussion time. So guys, feel free to share about what you want to ask and what you have for me related to Marco Polo. Yay! I missed this long Alstroepedia format. I will still, but I still want to do it less than 1 hour, you know? Spacha, thank you, look! Thank you, that's a cute Shiba. By the way, I need to check the donations that I got that I might have missed while being really hyped about Marco Polo's story. I hope you guys enjoyed it though. Did you guys enjoyed the way I deliver the story this time? I'm trying a different approach. It's like what I said earlier on my previous stream, because I want people to really enjoy, and maybe from now on most of my ALSTROEPEDIA streams will be in English, but sometimes it could also be in Indonesia. I will tell you guys if it's gonna be in Indonesian. Yes. Anyway, thank you Galang for the donation. There isn't any message. I got your donation, so thank you for that. Okay, let me check Superchat. Alright, okay. I read everything. I read all the donations. I'm sorry, but I'm still confused why Marco got caught in jail when he came back home. So, okay, let's go back again. So, you know, there was a war between Genoa and Venice, and he's a Venetian. He's a Venetian, so there you go. So everybody's we're capturing everyone. He's a Venetian. So maybe you can say that he got imprisoned unfairly in without being fair, like being jailed without any fairness. I don't know how to phrase that in English. Yeah. He was the enemy. His sports team lost, yeah. You know I was winning. He was a Venetian, so into the jail you go, sir. I don't care how wealthy you are, how important you are out there in the Far East. Well, but I believe the one who captured him didn't even know about how important he was in the Mongolian Empire, of course, because his story wasn't being told at that time. So he was just a random guy. I just arrived at home. Oh my god! My country is in war! Oh my god! I got ended up in prison. Oh my god! My cell buddy is an adventure writer. Oh my god! Now I have a chance to have my travel stories written. Oh my god! My book became a best-selling overnight. How is this possible? Maybe that is what was going on in his head. Yeah. Super chat, thank you! DPJs, thank you for the fun also videos. Marco Polo. Unlawful jail. Yeah, unlawful jail. Why am I famous? Maybe they just so confused what and why on who on that war. Yeah. Yeah. Such timing, I know, right? So, how about you guys? Are you skeptic or are you a believer? I'm just gonna start a poll. Super chat, thank you, reluctant reader. Yeah, I believe the novelist must have romanticized his life a little bit. There must be a dramatization at some point, but I believe some of the details that he told about his journey, about what is happening, what he has seen about the Mongolian Empire, must have been the truth. Okay, I want to see the poll. I will close the poll when we are ending the stream. This is a very interesting story, right? Marco Polo. Il Millenno. You believe is the more fun option. Well, as for myself, I believe that the details in the story are true, but I don't know if Marco Polo himself exists, because there must be, if he doesn't exist, I mean, if he didn't exist, the story must have been a collection of what the other travelers have seen in the far, far east. But then again, if he didn't exist, how could himself got written? How could his name got written in the scroll of one of the old kingdoms back in Indonesia? Because he stopped by at Sumatra, right? Was it Marco Polo? Was it Marco Polo? Well, I could go back with my portal just to check out if it's true, if it's real or not, but I don't have the privilege in telling you guys about the truth. If I've ever seen it, you know? Because you guys are not supposed to know about it. Aku percaya dengan cerita perjalanan Marco Polo kecuali dengan unicorn. The unicorn is the rhinoceros, okay? Badak bercula satu, guys. Jadi itu apa? Dia nggak tahu itu binatang apa, dia bilang aja, ih apa nih, oversized horse, apa kuda endut, tanduk satu. Oh, ini pasti unicorn nih. Cuman unicornnya mungkin bukan kuda langsing, mungkin kuda-kuda di sini tuh gendut-gendut gitu. Badak. Badak, guys. But if it's unverifiable, isn't that like looking for a needle in the hay of timeline travels? You know, right? Yeah, unicorn is real. It's just not a horse. Maybe you are Marco Polo, madam. You never know. Badag, yeah, badag. Okay, Marco Polo, Indonesia. Okay, I'm just gonna say this in bahasa Indonesia. Guys, ada yang ingat nggak itu waktu zaman-zaman segitu kerajaan apa ya yang ada di Sumatera ya? Jadi yang catat soal Marco Polo, aku cuman tahu Ibn Battuta gitu kayak. Apa ya? Kerajaan apa ya? Tahun berapa? Itu sekitar tahun 1290-an, 1290-an. Ya 1298 kayaknya kurang lebih. Marco. Can I have polo? Thank you. Thank you. Ah ya, bisa jadi kayak Samudra Pasai kali ya. Samudra Pasai soalnya ternyata ada catatannya ya. Marco Polo juga tulis soal Samudra Pasai katanya nih. Katanya Marco Polo juga nulis soal Samudra Pasai di bukunya dia. Samudra Pasai itu posisinya kan di Sumatera. Nah, kalau Majapahit itu posisinya di banyak pulau itu. Majapahit itu mencakup Jawa, Kalimantan. Majapahit itu gede, guys. Tapi kalau Marco Polo, if you guys are okay, so I'm just gonna tell about this in English. So the Indonesian viewers have found out that the old kingdom that I was talking about was called Samudra Pasai. Samudra means ocean. Pasai, I'm not really sure because that's not an Indonesian word. So it was a really old kingdom back then in Sumatra when it wasn't part of Indonesia. It's just a big archipelago back then. And if you remember that I also mentioned that Marco Polo He traveled to Southeast Asia and China as the special messenger and a tax collector, working for Laikan. Samudra Pasai in today. So the area where Samudra Pasai reigned over, nowadays it is called as Aceh. It's the northern part of Sumatra Island. So yeah, maybe Marco Polo visited there. Like for real. Okay. Was accurate, okay, was such okay. Beliau cuma ngomong soal Samudra Pasai atau ada kerajaan lain yang pernah beliau sebut? Coba kita cek ya. Let's see. I don't know if he ever mentioned about the other kingdoms. Okay, he wrote about Samudra Pasai. Yes. He also wrote about Perlak, the kingdom of Perlak in Malacca. Yeah. Perlak. Perlak in Malacca. Yeah. Perlak kingdom in Malacca. Because he was passing Malacca Strait. Yes. And he also visited the kingdom of Samudra Pasai. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I really want to believe that he's real, you know? It's how cool, like, you know, it's actually possible for a person to be able to travel to a lot of places. Because you know what? From Mongol, from China to Southeast Asia, it's not that far, you know? Given 24 years he's been working under Kublai Khan, he could do so much. So I really love to believe that he's real. Perlak in Malacca. Yeah, not Aceh. In Aceh, it was Kingdom of Samudra Pasai. Okay guys, so your 5 minutes are up. By the way, I thought most people cite him as real. Yeah, I think most people cite him as real. Sorry. Okay guys, your 5 minutes are up and I'm going to say goodbye now and see you on the next stream. So, tell me in the comments which next great explorers that you would like me to cover. So in December and January, I will be doing a language month. But as for the ALSTROEPEDIA, I will still be doing the Great Voyages series because it's just too interested to pass. You know, it's just too interested not to talk about. So even though the month itself is gonna be a language month from December to January, but I'm still going to talk about the Great Voyages in history. Okay, bye-bye everyone. Layla Alstroemeria, bubar jalan. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you guys enjoyed the new approach of me bringing the topic to you guys. Bye-bye, Alstroemeria. Bye.